Park where you're not supposed to, and it could be one of the most expensive mistakes you'll make.
That's because private towing companies in Wisconsin are allowed to charge you whatever they want. But is that a legalized version of a ransom? Steve Chamraz is here with a story that you asked us to investigate. Steve?
Mike, Carol, nobody should park where they're not allowed to. But if you do make a mistake, it could wind up draining your checkbook. That's because nobody in the state of Wisconsin is regulating the cost of a tow.
Few things can ruin your day quite like a run-in with this guy.
The first thought I had was it was stolen.
But park where you're not supposed to on private property and your car will disappear in a flash. Just ask Mark Padgett.
The fact that it happened so quickly leads me to believe, somebody's watching.
A couple months ago, Padgett parked his car right about here, failing to see the warning signs. This lot off Farwell Avenue is private property.
Totally my fault. Never saw the sign, wasn't looking for it, and I came out and my car was gone.
Gone to the custody of Mike Tarantino and the guys at the appropriately named Always Towing and Recovery.
Typically, the people aren't happy about it. Some are more understanding than others.
While Mark Padgett understands he was wrong, he has no idea why that mistake cost him so much money.
When it gets up into the $400 range for a tow that went 5 miles, and they held it for less than 48 hours, that to me is excessive.
Especially when you compare the bill from Always Towing to what the city would charge you. The city's bill would have been $185, $125 for the tow, and another $60 for storage. With a private tow company, the price tag doubles. $374.88. That's $225 for the tow, $105 for storage, a $25 processing fee, and almost $20 in tax.
How did you get to those numbers?
The numbers are based upon what actually goes into the trespass towing service. It is a higher fee because there's a lot more involved.
Tarantino let us tag along on one of those trespass tows to see for ourselves. It's a high-pressure job that involves a lot of risk, not to mention the occasional hours of waiting, since a car can't be towed from private property until a Milwaukee parking checker writes it a ticket.
Sometimes they come in 15 minutes, sometimes they come in 2 hours. Average response time in Milwaukee is anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes.
But that's not a good enough explanation for Mark Padgett, since a towing company can take your car and theoretically charge you whatever they want to get it back.
Who sets these fees? Who regulates? Are there ordinances or regulations? And when is reasonable not reasonable?
As it turns out, no one in Milwaukee or Wisconsin regulates the price a towing company can pay. State law books only make one reference to this, saying the charges need to be reasonable. Is almost $400 for a 5-mile tow reasonable?
No, it is not reasonable. It's way too expensive, and they're gouging consumers who made a simple mistake.
We brought the lack of regulation to one of the people who can change that. John Richards represents Milwaukee's downtown and east side in the state legislature. He thinks it's time to start talking about a hard limit on fees.
I doubt it's ever come in front of any sort of judge to say whether what's reasonable or not. So it's something with the legislature has to come into the picture and say, hey, if you're charging $400 for a single tow, that's not reasonable.
Other cities have gone this route. Portland, Oregon, for example, limits a basic tow to $168. In Santa Monica, California, it's $160. And in San Antonio, Texas, towing is a real steal at only $85.
Do you think your fees are reasonable?
We do. Considering everything that goes into the service, yes.
That's not something Mike Tarantino wants to see happen because it means his business will make less money. But it would remove some of the sting the next time you make a mistake.
Theoretically, the city of Milwaukee could create a cap on towing fees. We reached out to a number of aldermen to see how that would work, and Mike and Carol, none of them called us back. We'll keep on top of the state legislature, though, to see if they decide to take this one up.
Well, getting your vehicle towed is painful no matter what the cost.
Yes, just watch where you're parking.
Exactly. Thank you, Steve.